Welcome, Luyanda. We haven't met, but I'm really looking forward to your presentation. I think you have some very interesting messages, and needless to say, we don't really have a Norwegian reclaimers organization or association, which, based on what we've heard so far, we probably ought to. So clearly, it'd be interesting to see the different perspectives that you have in South Africa versus Norway, and I think it's a marvelous job that you and your colleagues are doing. So take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Luyanda Hlatshwayo. I'm a reclaimer. I collect materials. I collect. We are informal collectors, to be precise. We are under an organization called the African Reclaimers Organization. I think firstly we need to clarify the name reclaimer. I think that the normal wording would be a waste picker in South Africa, and we found it very disrespectful to who we are and the work that we're doing, because waste is something that has no use. It's waste. We reclaim recyclable, reusable materials that have value, and we redirect them from landfills. So that is how the name reclaimer came in. And African was mainly based on the unity within the workers, because in South Africa we've got 90% of the informal sector collecting plastic materials that are not from South African. So we've got a very huge number of foreign nationals that are not being recognized by the current system because of documents, and those people are collecting tonnages. So we had to organize ourselves. That's the African Reclaimers Organization. How it all started. There was a program that the city of Johannesburg started in 2017 of redirecting plastic material. It was called the Separate Unit Source Program. All reclaimers in the city of Johannesburg were fighting against it because it displaced a lot of reclaimers. It was based on a cooperative system that only recognized people that would have business certificates, a registered business. So what we initially saw, for example, in one location where you'd have 400 reclaimers collecting, immediately when people would get contracts of these separation source programs, we have 400 people displaced. We have JMPD police confiscating trolleys, confiscating materials, so that one single company can come and be able to collect materials. That immediately forced us to start organizing ourselves, because the reclaimers in South Africa were completely unorganized. I think that's why the system works. People have a choice of where they want to go and collect materials from. That is why it's very informal. We were forced to start formalizing ourselves. To cut the long story short, in a space of about 4 months, we were organized, and we had close to 7,000 reclaimers from the landfill, from the streets, and we were marching against the regulations of the city. And from the 11 contracts that were supposed to be mandated, we were very happy, but not too happy. There was only 3 that were left. So it was a beginning of the start. That's when we decided to start having a voice of our own. The special thing about African Reclaimers Organizations is that all of us are reclaimers. There's no bigger person, there's no boss. We've created our own system that works for us, where no one is accountable, everyone is accountable, but there's no one is a boss. Materials only respect the people that wake up and go and work and do collections. So we've tried very much to make it a point that we don't have any other influence that comes into the organization, whether it could be spiritual, whether it could be political. Everyone takes out their differences and we concentrate on the work that we're doing. There's been a lot of engagement with many different stakeholders. Would it be from government? Would it be from local municipalities? On a national level, we've spoken to people on the ground level, from your residents that come and ask what type of material recyclable. Those engagements that we started doing started changing the way people start looking at reclaimers. Stop looking at people as vagrants, just start looking at people as homeless, because reclaimers are not homeless. It's just the situation that forces people to be homeless. The competition with formal waste management systems that are hired by the municipalities create competition for reclaimers. For an example, reclaimers wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, travel 20 to 30 kilometers to wherever the bins are coming out on that day. And normally we would have the whole day to come and collect. With competition, you only have 2 hours because the truck comes in at 9 o'clock, which forces reclaimers to start sleeping in suburbs, sleeping in abandoned areas, sleeping in areas that no person would actually sleep for the sake of being able to be the first one to come and collect the materials. Which forced us to start doing programs, started piloting separation at outside source programs, completely different from what separation at source program is, because reclaimers do not specifically go to one particular place. Reclaimers are not paid to go and do a collection. You are forced to fill up your bag because you need the money. So if it means that someone did illegal dumping in a park and there's a lot of cardboard, definitely a reclaimer would go there. That is separating the materials outside of the source because it has already moved the materials from the source. The source being the end user, which is the residents. We've engaged in a lot of programs, cleaning campaigns, cleaning programs, educational programs on teaching residents on what is recyclable, what is not recyclable, how to start doing recycling, how to separate the materials, how to provide support to the reclaimers. And what we found very interesting was the output that would come out, because residents would start asking, but you guys wear what paraclavers, you guys are always dirty, we can't engage with you like this. And the reclaimers would say the reason why we're dirty is because you're not separating your materials. The reason why we're wearing paraclavers is because your material smells. When I open your bin doesn't smell good. So we started having engagements with them, and it gave birth to pilots that were beneficial to both people. Where we had a pilot project that we did with Unilever through the engagements we had with some of the industries. And the actual idea was, how do we start recognizing reclaimers for the work that they were doing? So what we started seeing is that, well, we started giving reclaimers 50 cents per kilo on every materials that they collect for the day. So for an example, if a reclaimer collects 300 kilograms from a certain location and we go weigh it, they get paid 50 cents on each kilo that they weigh. So 300 rands would roughly make about 150 rand. That is what I strongly believe is an average wage for an average income for a South African. 150 rand is something that is very reasonable, people can be able to live with. The change in stigma, the change in behavior was seen as engagements went forward, as people started doing cleaning campaigns with the communities, as we started engaging in food gardening with the communities. That is when behavior change started happening. And when we look at the difference between separation at source and separation outside source, is that reclaimers had the best interest of educating communities, because we don't want to be going through your sanitary materials. We don't want to be going through your personal things. The most important thing is to be able to retrieve the materials that we came to collect and move out of the suburb as soon as possible. What we started doing also is start accumulating the data of how much really does an average reclaimer collect. It's very interesting. From 6,000 reclaimers that we've been working with in the city, an average reclaimer collects about close to 100, 150 kilograms a day. That is a lot of materials that is coming out of the system that has been created to take materials to the landfill. That is a free system that has been provided to South Africa for ages. It has solved the problems of logistics. It has solved the problems of storage. It has made it very possible that the industry is able to go forward, even in times of COVID. What happened in the project during COVID, a lot of reclaimers didn't go to work, but the ones that were actually in the project continued collecting, even if there's no value for the materials, because they were gaining something from those 50 cents per kilo that people were earning. So we're able to create an income through engagements with many different stakeholders. We may not know the intentions of Unilever when they came on board. Maybe they were just ticking boxes. We don't know. But it started an engagement. Now we started that program. We are very happy this year. It's been getting some support, and we will no longer doing it with 70 reclaimers. We're looking at 5,000 reclaimers in and around the city of Johannesburg. We're hoping to be getting up at 8 different sites. The only problem is that there's no proper engagement with other stakeholders who have to be playing part of this inclusive circular economy that I'll explain later. The value of resources, the value of centralizing resources for reclaimers. Unfortunately, we had to wait for a truck all the way from Japan. We got a donation from people that were able to lend an ear of what reclaimers need. When the city engaged with us a couple of years back, they were suggesting that they give reclaimers trolleys, and we were against it because they never engaged us properly, and they spent millions of rands creating those trolleys. And immediately after that, when reclaimers received it, those trolleys were very heavy. They were made out of steel. They weighed about 80 kilograms, which a normal trolley is about 20. Within the space of a week, all those trolleys were sold because they were too heavy. When UNIDO engaged with us on the things that we need, reclaimers requested a truck. The reason why we requested a truck is because we wanted to upscale on the materials that we're collecting. There's a lot of social work that goes through it. We're able to do food gardenings and be able to start feeding people throughout the process of COVID-19. Most of the reclaimers were literally eating out of the food gardens that have been created. We've been able to engage with markets. We've been able to engage with residents where there's restricted areas. In South Africa, there's boom gates where people can't access certain communities. There's certain locations where they've never seen a trolley, they've never seen a reclaimer. But when COVID happened, what happened is that every business stopped. Even the collection system that the city actually allocated, it literally stopped. We saw residents phoning reclaimers, looking for reclaimers to help to remove the amount of waste that's going out. So from the engagements that happened prior, we're able to find solutions with resources. Now, this truck is very important to us because it is literally one resource that has been centralized to be able to support more than 80 people a week. Your 70-year-old woman who would normally travel 20 kilometers a day, she wakes up in the morning, goes to one centralized location. The truck wakes up in the morning and goes to one of the residents association, makes arrangements to do a collection. Instead of going to one particular person, we've centralized close to 40 women who don't have to travel distances and wait for materials to come to them. They sort it out and they go sell for themselves. The importance of reclaimers, the value of reclaimers in South Africa, 80 to 90% post-consumer plastic is being collected by us. Separation outside source, I've actually explained that one. We're serving municipalities and the landfill space. We're saving municipalities with a lot of logistics. It would cost the city much more if they had to hire more trucks to be able to collect the tonnages that reclaimers are collecting and diverting them. We're literally the backbone of the entire industry. There's reclaimers in the landfill. The photo that you're seeing right now is taken at the landfill. That's what I call the last line of defense. This is where all the municipal trucks come and throw all of the recyclables that people come and collect. And the number of tonnages, we started collecting the data because no one has been collecting the data. We started collecting our own data to be able to find out exactly what is the value of reclaimers. In one of the projects in Waterval, fortunately, the local municipality was engaging with us. We were able to share data. Reclaimers, the informal system using a trolley collects 9 tons, whilst a service truck by pick it up collects 1 ton, 1 to 9. I think that should actually show us where we should redirect the support. Now, if reclaimers were getting the support that was normally given to the private sector, we'd definitely be looking at 100% collection of post-consumer plastic. How it works, we organize municipalities, we organize residents, we do educational programs, we organize industries to sit down and make it practical, what we call an inclusive plastic economy. producers have to play a part, manufacturers have to play a part, reclaimers have been playing their part, residents need to play their part, municipalities need to play a part. Everyone has to play a part in the process of making sure that no waste goes to landfill. The importance of having an organization in situations like this is very important, because reclaimers are very informal. The provision of resources for reclaimers to organize themselves is very key. Because I think you need a doctor to organize doctor. You need a mechanic to organize mechanics. Why do you need a politician to organize people in the informal sector? So I think that is what is special that has happened with Aro, is that we were able to uh, organize ourselves and mobilize on our own. Um, the solution: inclusive circular economy. If we all really want to save the environment, we all need to play a part. Could it be a resident separating materials? Could it be a reclaimer going an extra day to collect materials? Could it be industries coming and laying a hand and saying, well, we can be able to incubate reclaimers in the EPR system? Because the projects that have proven that if you do pay reclaimers, you won't find any plastic. We do have proof. Engagements and collaborations with academics. We've worked a lot with Wits University and other institutions where they were very key in helping reclaimers in certain things that we cannot do, like your baseline studies of the importance of understanding the value that we are moving out of the system. Recognition on services provided by reclaimers. No one wants to go and work and not get paid. Reclaimers have been working for peanuts. The price of aluminium can in South Africa is 14 Rand a kilo, but it's also controlled by the buyers. If the buyer is very happy on Monday, you'll get it for 4 Rand. If his wife made him happy on Wednesday, you'll get it for 3 Rand. If he had a funeral on Friday, you'll get it for 1 Rand. No one is regulating the industry. We need everyone to be able to recognize reclaimers for the work that they're doing. Infrastructure support. It's very incredible how reclaimers have supported the industry, not only by collecting, not only by sorting materials, but we're finding hidden spaces where no one can find us to be able to hide these materials. Because if the city doesn't approve of what we're doing, there's no space to be able to store all these volumes that are coming out of the city of Johannesburg. The structures that the government has actually put in cannot withhold the amount of waste that is coming out. Reclaimers are retrieving it. We are reclaiming it, and we don't have storage places. Maybe if you can just switch on your video, I can show you one of the locations that I'm actually in. It's a very hidden location. It's literally inside a forest. And reclaimers are hiding materials, they're sorting materials, because if it's visible to officials, it gets confiscated, it gets burnt. So that's the importance of having an inclusive circular economy. Everyone must be involved. Officials need to understand the importance of the work that we're doing instead of burning the materials that we're collecting. Infrastructure support. The city has tons of buildings, a lot of open spaces that are not being used. Uh, uh, Reclaimers are not asking for money. We just need centralized resources. If you were to create a space, 1,000 square meters that reclaimers can use officially, you are diverting tons of materials from the parks, because some of the materials that we're storing in these forests end up in the river. It starts to create another problem, and we've already started engaging with residents to help and provide all these spaces, the garden spaces that are not being used, so that we can start moving all materials out of the parks. Finally, we have learned that the importance is for people to be able to gain value for the work they're doing, and not just value, but to be able to be proud of the work that they're doing. We've been able to get some support, and we've been able to brand, I think, 5,000 reclaimers of uniforms. We've been able to provide support to guys at the landfills. We've been able to provide solutions for residents who, when there's no solution to how do they dispose their waste. I watched you, the picture that you're seeing there is a reclaimer, is a resident who stored materials and couldn't go out to actually take it out, and the other truck would come collect in their neighborhood. Be able to practice social distancing. We've tried in many different ways to find direct support, not only to reclaimers, but it's direct support to the municipalities, direct support to residents. This is a graph of what we did in 2019. I'll show another one in 2020. There's data that no one is actually collecting. There's data that reclaimers have that no one is collecting. And we've started engaging, as I said, with your VERT universities, with academics, and finding exactly what is the total value, what is the actual value of reclaimers. This graph would show you the collection before COVID, it would show you the collection after COVID. The one in 2020 will show you the difference of it. We are starting to do work. We have started to accelerate the work that we're doing, and to be able to find ways. There's many different ways of saving the environment, but the problem of plastic needs an inclusive system that will be able to acknowledge each and every person that plays a part, and be able to accumulate the data and know how much we are moving out of our rivers, so that we can be able to direct the exact support. The proper support needs to be directed to the people that are doing the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luyanda. I think it's really great to get your perspective, and as it's such a valuable service that you provide, particularly in South Africa, diverting so much waste from landfill. There are a few questions and comments coming in. Rafiwa says, what challenges do you encounter with residents when you educate them about recycling? And what do you think needs to be done for residents to better cooperate with you?
The stigma, of who you are, what you're doing, it has been a very big problem. Reclaimers have been stigmatized with drugs and stuff like that. As I said, engagements are the first thing that change the whole thing. When people start learning the person that you are, and I mean, some people would think of us as criminals, and it's not practical. No one would actually pull a trolley weighing 200 kilograms and go and mug someone. How are you going to be able to run away? So those engagements with communities are the ones that we're able to start changing the stigma. And also, I think we also, reclaimers had to change themselves from within and be able to take out that balaclava, so we can be able to start engaging properly with communities. I think what the city forgot to do is educate, as I had said before. Reclaimers had to find their own ways of educating themselves, of educating communities at large.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a comment from Katerina that says, absolutely love Arrow, you guys are invaluable. What are your thoughts on phasing out certain plastic materials following the South African Plastics Pact target for their members?
Well, if there was proper engagement with all stakeholders, chances are that the decision could have been different. There's a lot of plastic that is not being recyclable because not proper facilities have been created. Styrofoam is a huge problem. It's recycled, but there's no value in it. So they wouldn't entertain it. The amount of plastic that's coming out, I think it's important to approach producers, the people that actually make the plastic. It's important that it must be recyclable from that level. Because when it comes to a level of a reclaimer, it's all about value. Most reclaimers don't know anything else as long as it puts value. We did a survey with Sosol 2 years back, where we were given reclaimers a certain amount for the plastic that was not being collected. It was the dark refused plastics. It had no value. And immediately we would put in 150 per kilo. Within a day, there was no plastic within that area. So I think producers play a very big key on the environment, on what we are going to dispose to the environment.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a comment from Rafiwa that says, what would you say is the ideal working environment for reclaimers?
What would be ideal is for people to wake up in the morning at a normal time, not at 2 o'clock in the morning. Be able to have logistics to collect materials, be able to have time and spaces to be able to sort and store your materials, and to have a choice whether you want to sell or not sell your materials. Reclaimers want to be in a space where they can be able to upscale the materials that they're collecting. We want to start getting into next level. Maybe it could be baling, next level, the next value chain level. You know, because reclaimers have been stuck on the collection system and without even noticing that there's another level where we can go through, where we can start having resources and start doing something with the materials that we're collecting. There's a couple of women who are starting to do wonder bags with the styrofoam that has no value at the moment. So reclaimers want to find themselves in a space where we can upscale the work, you know, put it on a different level and start earning more income. I think the trick here is understanding that reclaimers don't want to be employed. Reclaimers want to do collections, mainly because a lot of foreign nationals know that they will never get jobs in South Africa. So what they have been able to get is something that they've been able to sustain their families with. Being able to get support of infrastructure, being able to get support of logistics makes the job much easier. And if you were to look at it, it increases tonnages. When we started introducing the truck, people would normally collect 100 kilograms a day, started collecting 200 kilograms a day. It has an effect on the whole value chain immediately. When just one small resource is able to help a lot of people, centralizing of resources, that is very important.
There's a comment from Kyle that says, thank you, Luyanda, very thought-provoking. Is any work being done in rivers, litter intercepted by booms, grids, nets, etc.? Is there scope to reclaim some of that material?
We are doing a river cleaning. We started doing it last year in February. It's been happening each and every Sunday till date. At a Yoske River by the N1 in Malibongo Drive. And we are moving out all the materials out of the river. We've got a committed group of reclaimers of 20 guys who are there every Sunday. And we are weighing the materials and people are making money out of it. There's a lot of money that's floating in our rivers. And reclaimers, through doing river cleanups, have started accumulating all that materials and redirecting it from going through to the rivers and taking it back into the value chain. So we are, I think the education, as I said, it's not only just on us giving to communities, but also us being educated on different ways of how do we save the environment and be able to continue earning a living out of it.
There's another question that says, thank you for the great presentation. Can you share your contact details for further engagement?
Oh, no, definitely. I think Tara will help me with that. We'll just post it on the message and then everyone can be able to get this.
Sure. Then there's a comment from Dostane, a Plastics SA, saying plastics and packaging industry is collaborating and supporting waste reclaimers. I think, Do, is that the Waste Reclaimers Association? I think
there's a process that is happening right now in I think from the previous plastic colloquium, the process of saying let's start making collaborations within the industry. Could it be industries? Could it be schools? Could it be communities and reclaimers? I think the mandate now is to start doing collaborations because clearly the industry does now starting to acknowledge that reclaimers are key. We have different companies coming in and say we want to be part of that. We want to see how we can pilot this. So we are engaging, but I think that engagement can be engagement, but is it fruitful? Is it meaningful engagement? Is it just a waste of time? You know, which has been the main thing with engaging with government for the past 5 years. You know, but we are starting these collaborations that we're starting, and the important thing that we're doing for as our is making sure that everything needs to include the people that are doing the collections themselves. If it doesn't benefit the people that are doing the collection, then we don't engage in that. So we are having engagements, and we are starting programs that hopefully will be able to escalate. And we've been fortunate to actually have a time to actually speak to the Minister of Department of Environmental Affairs, and to actually highlight the importance of actually including reclaimers in the current EPR system that's going has to be approved. So we are having those engagements. We are part of the Plastic Pact, and we are having good engagements with different organizations. Would it be your WWF? Would it be UNIDO? So we are in that process already.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's quite a lot of positive feedback here, but I'm just going to skip ahead to the last two questions for the sake of time. Henk says, during the break, you mentioned that reclaimers were hiding materials. Can you elaborate on that, please?
You see, there's a lot of reclaimers that would still continue collecting even if it's lockdown. If we were to remember very well, after the first 21 days of lockdown, reclaimers were actually put in as essential services. So reclaimers had the right to walk around the streets and be able to collect, but the industry was not open for reclaimers to go and sell materials. So throughout that process, there's been a process of storing. But it's not just a COVID thing. It is a regular thing. If the price of PET and HDA is also regulated by the price of oil. So if the price of oil is very high, then there's no need for producers and recyclers to use virgin plastic to produce virgin plastic. They would go directly and start recycling from us. But if the price goes around, we are forced to start storing. So it's a regular thing. If I were to show you just one of the storage places that we have, where reclaimers are literally storing in a hidden space, and it's literally in a very high suburb area, and you can see how people are storing materials. We are literally hiding materials, and it's right next. It's literally right next to people's eyes. And it's if JMPD or police officials were to get here, we are going to see tons of materials being burnt, unfortunately. So that is the type of storage that we're talking about. The glass company right now has it opened. They haven't been starting manufacturing. Look at the amount of glass that is being stored. If other countries would have to pay for the storage, companies will have to pay for storage. We have to steal property. We have to hide ourselves to be able to store. So not only are we doing collections, but we are storing and hiding materials, and reclaimers are doing a lot of work that is redirecting materials. People are sleeping in parks, paying security so that the material doesn't get sorted, doesn't get stolen. It is definitely about time that we make it a point that the city and all stakeholders find ways of helping this informal sector that's literally holding the recycling industry on its back.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's another question that says, do you think perhaps that we could look at including reclaimers into our country's formal waste management sector? And that Jade would also like your contact details.
Yeah, that's a very good question. If reclaimers were to decide to not sell materials for a month, then everyone would be forced to include reclaimers in the waste management system. Unfortunately, we don't have the money not to sell because people need to eat. But on a practical mode, if all the 5,000 reclaimers that are under ARO, if we were to decide not to sell materials for a full month, industries would be affected. It is important that we start engaging. It is a shame that we are getting resources from foreign countries. This truck, we actually got it from UNIDO from Japan. If we're to be able to get resources and be able to have land, we will centralize as much materials as possible and would have a choice of where we would sell it. That is ideal what reclaimers would actually want right now. Because now you're seeing people squatting literally because they have to guard the materials.
This is a system that is not working. South Africa is used to a free labor system, the system of not paying for the labor that is being offered, and is coming to a point that people's lives are at stake. Immediately, when you start including a cooperative system, you are disturbing thousands of people from earning a living. It is a human, it is a tragedy, it's a crime what is happening. We are feeding the industry of millions of rands, and we are being paid cents, and we are providing time and energy in doing that. It is about time that industries, government, everyone plays a part in what we're calling the inclusive circular economy.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a question from Leslie that says, are there ways that reclaimers in small towns could also be supported?
We have already started going to different communities, different towns. Rustenburg, we've been going to Bloemfontein, we are going to Kimberley. We never planned for this to be a national organization, but we're already in a way in a process of going to different communities. The truck here is able to go and help elderly women in Vereeniging to come and sell materials where it's much where the pricing is actually much better. You know, so we are slowly going ahead and be able to go in there and start organizing other reclaimers and be able to give them a word. But the problematic part about it, the cost of all of this, you know, if it happens that all reclaimers are organized and we are able to control the amount of materials that are coming out and we're able to withstand it, who's paying the cost of organizing all these reclaimers? See, the system of South Africa is used to a free system. You know, industries are saying, go ahead and organize. Who's supposed to be organizing? We are supposed to be organizing ourselves.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a comment from Joe that says there are more than 70,000 informal collectors in South Africa, including Arrow, the South African Waste Pickers Association, and others. And we need to find the best way to support them, and they play a vital role. Thank you so much, Luyanda. Carl, I'm not sure if you want to move on. I think we are running slightly behind schedule, but thank you so much, Luyanda. And I think you're giving such a unique perspective and live, in the field. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again, Luyanda. I mean, this is thought-provoking, to put it mildly, from a Norwegian point of view, because you are highlighting a very different part of society that we don't have in Norway, and I truly admire what you guys are doing, and any way we can all support would be wonderful. So this is interesting, engaging, and thought-provoking to a very high degree. So best of luck going forward. We'll applaud you with everything we have.
Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you, everyone.
And we'll certainly make Luyanda's contact information available to all of you. I'll certainly want to follow up as well with some of the project that we have ongoing in Norway to illustrate the differences in cultures and social environments between the different countries. It also begs the question that, from my point of view, that we shouldn't get into right now, but just the fact that you are way ahead in South Africa compared to other African countries, and Doe and I have talked about that before also. What seems to be working at least better in South Africa than in other countries in Africa, why is that not adopted in other countries? But that's a whole different seminar to dig into that. As Tara says, we're running a little bit behind, but I think that's fine. So I just wanted to go through a couple of things to make sure we have that sort of. So this is obviously on the agenda, and we'll do a little bit of that, but I just want to go through. I have a bunch of slides here. I'll leave it all to you to look at later. I mean, to me, this is the most sort of engaging aspect of it, just in terms of how this all is escalating, and we all need to look at ways to deal with it. I'll skip through that. For the Norwegian contingents, and maybe also for the South Africans, I just want to highlight that Africa is a pretty big place. People tend to get amazed when you compare the different countries and continents on the planet with Africa. Part of the reason is, when we look at maps in Norway, just the different scale of the map seems to create a very disturbed aspect to it. And also, I find this a fascinating book that basically says there are some tremendous opportunities. But going forward, I'm hoping that all of the teams find ways to engage with themselves. We will invite you to sessions, maybe a sort of once a month type of thing going forward, to share information and to distribute networking and contact information and anything else that might support what you are all doing. We are creating this series, or actually SST is, so we'll get back to that as well. So every Wednesday from now on, we will have sort of some interesting guest lectures. We already have had some good examples. We are recruiting more people to highlight different aspects of what this program is all about. So stay tuned, you will learn more from that. I'm more than happy to engage with any of you. As you probably have already figured out, I can talk for days and weeks about some of these topics. I don't have the solutions, but I certainly have some data points and some interesting aspects to it. And the ARO was new to me, and certainly something that I want to look into further. So basically, you will get more information on the webinar series every Wednesday going forward, and we also will want to invite you to future sessions, sort of type of roughly once a month, to also share information between what the different teams are doing. We haven't talked so much about this, but I want to make sure you're all aware of it, especially now when we're not spending money on travel. We do have some extra cash available within this program that we received, obviously, again, from the Norwegian Retailers Environment Fund. So if there are projects that you guys are working on, we'll be more than happy to provide at least a little bit of support if that sort of makes a difference to what you're doing. I don't know exactly what it would be, because you won't be able to travel in South Africa nor in Norway. But if there are specific equipments or licenses or anything that sort of hampers progress in your project, please let me know, and we'll certainly be able to expedite that very quickly. We don't have a bureaucratic process to deal with it. And we are hoping to be able to get all of us together in June. The probability is not very high, but I certainly still hope we can. So around Easter time, we will make the decision whether we can or not. And also what I'm hoping is that for all the work that you guys are doing, that we will be able to do sort of a poster presentation at the concluding workshop, even if we have to do it digitally. I think that would be a wonderful mechanism that would also help in communicating the challenges and some of the ideas to solve them to the broader audience. We'll certainly publish that in all the channels we have available at the Action Ocean Plastic Waste at NTNU, and certainly Sustainable Seas Trust, and also the Norwegian Retailers Environment Fund. So hopefully we can get some interesting communications out of that. We also are planning a second cohort. I guess we all learned a new term, the cohort. So we plan to do a second one later this year, and then hopefully be able to converge that at the great conference that SST is planning in April in 2022. That's certainly already on my calendar to be able to do that, and I hope we'll see each other there.
Hi, Carl. I had just commented in the chat with Luyanda's contact details, and also to say that if anyone's looking for information about the weekly webinars, we will email you, but it's also up on the SST events page if you want to go read up on them.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tara. We touched on a few of the work that you guys are doing yesterday, and I certainly be very curious to hear more about that. And if there are any questions at all about what we will be focusing on, please bring that forward. One specific question to Tara and I and Lauren is, are there any particular topics that you would want or look forward to have covered in the webinar series we are planning? We have a couple of presenters lined up. Linda Godfrey, who some of you I'm sure know already, to talk about the African Waste Management Outlook, and also Peter Manyara to talk about the hotspotting, very interesting project that IUCN and others have been developing with South Africa as a pilot. And I'm hoping that we'll also get some traction. And I know that one of the attendees here is looking to explore that for Norway, to hopefully be able to develop a pilot in a Norwegian context similar to what South Africa has already done. So those are two plans. We also have Leslie Patrick lined up to talk about the social or psychological aspects of waste management. which is again key to the program that we're in, to look at not only the technical engineering, economic, but also the psychological, cultural aspects of waste management. So those are 3 examples, and again, you will be notified going forward. But if you have any other suggestions now or on email to Tara, Lauren, or I, please feel free to do so. We did the shoot the other day, and we want to use that to obviously spread the word. So the question, if any of you have any objections to have your screenshot be part of it, then do let us know. Otherwise, we will compile that and make use of it, and certainly share it with anybody interested. So not necessarily now in public, but please send very quickly an email to Tara and I whether you have any problems of having the screenshot being shared.
Carl, I've had a message in the chat that there's a team that's happy to do a quick report back.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Please do.
You can go ahead and share your screen if you want to share anything.
Hi, yes, okay, yeah, we're from group 6. So our group is focusing on 3D printing with a focus on the fused disposition modeling, which is like the most common of the 3D printer types. Basically, our point is that during 3D printing, there's a lot of waste produced. So as an example, this part, even before the part is used, 25% of the material used to make it is already waste. So what we're trying to find out is, what can we do with this waste? Can it be reused and reprocessed into new filament to reuse for printing? And also, what effect would this process have on the strength of the products printed using the reused filament? Because it's all well and good to make new filament, but if that filament is not of a usable quality, then it's not much help. And then additionally, also how much filament is being used, how much of that is waste, and so how much can be reused. At the moment, we are only 3 of us, so if there is anyone that is interested in this, please get in touch. So yeah. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Sorry.
I know that there are several in South Africa. You have several companies actually building workboats, and some of them are looking into printing workboats, and not necessarily the whole boat, but certainly components. There are several companies in Norway also exploring that aspect. Basically, again, not this huge sort of fantastic you can find on the web where they print an entire boat in one scoop, but basically printing specific materials or details to it that you could possibly combine with the way that plastic boats are currently being welded together. So that was a long introduction. The question is, have you looked into how you can use recycled plastic from other sources, and what type of requirements that would impose on the quality or the cleanliness of it?
At the moment, we were looking at kind of limiting the scope to something that we can actually do the physical testing, which we then limited to basically the equipment that we have available, the extruders and the material that we can actually get for those tests. So we weren't really considering that at this point, but I mean, we are still in a very early stage of the research. So obviously there is scope to expand upon that if there is something of interest like that. But again, we are a little bit limited by the equipment that we have available to actually produce these filaments.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. I'm just sort of leaping ahead and looking at what is the next step. I mean, the whole 3D printing is obviously a fairly new, at least to people of my age. Yeah. But it is also evolving very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of opportunities that technology might open up.
Yeah, it is also a rapidly expanding market. So it's, obviously if we can kind of start off with these recyclable materials, then as it expands, then, you're not really playing catch up so much as you're getting ahead of the curve.
Yep. Wonderful.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicholas, there's a comment in the chat from Doe that says, talk to Anna B. She's an expert on plastics.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we'll do that. Thanks.
That's very good advice. So again, the recordings and the slides will be made available. SST is planning a whole series of webinars, and the first part of it is dedicated to what you guys are working on. And again, I'm here, and I'd love to chat with you at any point about some of the projects and some of the opportunities. I think there is enough challenges to go around, to put it mildly. So thank you all for being part of it, and stay tuned, and we'll send you more information and more stuff going forward. Well, thank you, SST, and thank you, Tara, for your wonderful hosting and technical capabilities. So see you again soon. Take care.